Hey guys, welcome to the pre-show. This is the Dirt on Gardening. I like to get here a little bit early to make sure the lighting's right and everything's correct before we get our guest on here. But we should have our other co-hosts, I should say, here shortly. I see the Chocolate Botanist is here super early today. Look at that. Look at that. Come on up, Derek. Hey, what's going on,
I
man?
decided to trick you and be here early.
The first one here. Look at that.
I
That's
know.
amazing.
I'll never do this again. This is a one and done. I will never be anywhere early this again.
What's up, Jimmy? Who's that there? Yes, it is Andre here. I'm Andre the Farmer, and this is the Chocolate Botanist, Derek. And I think we have Urban Gardening with Gray here. I think I just saw him there. And we are all here.
Wait,
What's going
wait,
on,
wait.
guys?
Derek beat me here.
I did. Let me tell you, it's gonna snow. It's gonna snow real bad
It'll snow.
because I got to.
I love it.
Yeah, it's crazy, crazy. Well, guys, welcome to another episode of the Dirt on Gardening. Tonight we are going to be talking about pesticides. It's a very controversial topic for a lot of people. I had a very, I guess personal experience with some pesticides very recently. We'll talk about that too. But first, I want to talk about our sponsors. We have Sonia's Bug Spray, which we all use pretty much throughout the garden. This stuff feels like lotion. It does not feel like bug spray at all. You can just spray it on yourself and you won't even feel like you need to take a shower. You'll feel like you just came out of a shower and you'll smell good too.
You know what, Andre?
Um,
The
yep.
great thing I love about Sonia's bug spray, I just stepped out in the garden and I didn't put any on. I picked a couple of tomatoes and boom, hit me on both arms. But the beautiful thing about Sonia's bug spray, put some on and it actually soothes those bites right after the fact
Right.
too.
It's an
Yes,
after,
Sue.
it's an afterbite as well. Definitely, definitely. And also we have Retain as well as one of our sponsors. And I'm gonna be right back.
Well, while you're off running, I want to open up a little bit of mail for you guys because our wonderful sponsors at Retain, they sent me something in the mail that I just want to show you guys. So let's check this out. A little unboxing here going on.
We love an unboxing. I'm opening up my computer because I have the retained stuff I wanted to be able to read off, but I don't remember none of that. So what you got there? What's that there?
Look at that. Look at that. A big old bottle of
Ooh,
Retain so I can make sure that I'm cleaning all my tools from my chainsaws, from my pruners to my pruning, my grafting knife. I mean, the whole shebang. And
we
Derek, you
love
want
a
to know something
shebang.
cool?
Tell me.
I just came back from PlantCon, and the wonderful people over at Retain sent me a box full of samples to give everyone that was in my not my grafting class, but my propagation class. They all got a free sample of Retain at PlantCon,
Well,
and they loved it.
I'm glad you loved it. And see, can you shake that bottle up so the people can see it in action? Can you shake it? Can you shake that bottle up as the people see it in action? Because what I want y'all to do is to know that if you are trying to retain any of your beautiful plant babies, you need to get this product today. I have a script here I was going to read, but we're going to go off the cuff because that's what I do. I'm the off the cuff king. Get you some retain today because they are one of our beautiful sponsors that have gotten in at the dirt level here, helping us out to do this thing. And while you're using the paper airplane to share this, or you're copying that link wherever you are seeing this at, also remember our other sponsors. Andre's pepper sauce. That stuff goes good on everything. While I have not yet gotten a bottle yet, and I'm not going to be real bitter about it, it is what I hear is delicious. I've only heard about it. I see all types of people eating it. People at conferences are eating it and saying it's so delicious. But it's okay. I'm not jealous.
Hey,
And last but certainly not least is
leave me
Sonia's
your
bug
address
spray.
after this. I'm gonna get a couple bottles out to you right away. Right
Please
away.
do, because my southern mouth needs it.
I did
And we
not
have Sonia's
know
bug
that you
spray.
had not tried the sweet and
I
spicy yet. So you're
have
gonna get a bottle
not,
right
because
away.
Derek just only got a job back now. Derek has been living pity to post, so that's why he hasn't gotten it. I'm good on it. I swear I am. And again, for those of you watching it, I want y'all to share this live, this podcast, where you're watching it now as we're doing it live, or you're watching it in the future.
In the
So
future.
All
that way
right.
we can make sure that people know who
Enough
we
with
are.
that. Enough with
Go
that.
ahead.
These are the people that make our show possible. So thank you very much. But we want to talk about pesticides today, guys, because that is a controversial topic. And anytime I post a video and and first of all, anything that you use to control pests is a pesticide, right?
Yep.
So
It's
if you're
all
using
chemicals, right?
vinegar, using cayenne pepper, you've created a pesticide,
100%
right?
true. Garlic water, guess what? Pesticide. Yep.
Right. So pesticides. What do you guys think? What's your take on pesticides? Because you
I
want me to
mean, the
tell you about
truth
my
be told,
experience? Let me
Please.
yes,
tell you one thing
please.
quick. All right. So I'm a neem oil guy. Maybe if I step it up, diatomaceous earth,
Hmm.
insecticidal soap, BT. That's kind of the limit of where I usually am. However, there's a new pest in town called Lychee erinos mite,
Mm.
and it is decimating the lychee industry here in Florida.
Mm.
I've heard about some farms on Pine Island that have been decimated by this lychee mite, and I had one tree that was infected. And this tree had a ton of flowers on it. But what lychee mite does is it causes a ton of leaf curl, and it also infects the flowers. It makes the flowers all bulbous, and then they don't set fruit. So I ended up losing probably 90% of the fruit on my tree, and the tree was like 20 feet tall. But I ended up having to cut all the leaves off it, burn them, and douse it in 7 sulfur. 7 is a brand, and they make a sulfur product, which is sulfur dust. And I ended up having to douse the entire stubs of the tree in that sulfur dust. And I posted a video about it. You can see on my page, and we'll see where it goes from there. And I had a lot of people, not a lot, but there were a few people that were like, "Oh, you should put, baking soda and cinnamon and all kinds of things like that." Like, I don't think they understand that we are way, way beyond that stage.
Right.
I love those natural remedies, but there comes a time where some things just need killing.
Yep.
And that's where we are with the lychee tree right there. So, I'll let you guys put your comment on
Well,
that.
I'm so glad you mentioned this because as master gardeners, what we are taught is we're taught to follow an IPM, integrated pest management system. This is where we go through and we strategically see what steps need to be taken for our pest management. We don't just throw everything at it and like hope something, a shotgun approach and hopefully something takes it out. But you have already gone through the integrated pest management system, and you're at the point where is what needs to be done. And unfortunately, when we do these TikTok videos and we do the Instagrams and so forth, they're too short to see the whole entire process. So a lot of people don't get that process. So they get confused and like, oh, no, you should try this first, but you're already past that. Yeah.
Sorry, what do you think, Derek?
Derek agrees with all of that. When it comes to actually treating your plants and getting rid of pests, I know a lot of you want to feel like you're doing something safer by doing something that is natural. But I swear to you, the reason that a lot of your natural remedies just don't work is because it needs a method of action, meaning it attacks or works in some way, shape, or form, right? So if you have BT, for example, which is natural, it pokes holes in the stomachs of insects. If you have holes poked in your stomach, you're not like a Looney Tunes cartoon. You can't, just heal from that in the next scene. So you end up finishing all your living. The method of action. It needs to work a certain type of way and work within the life cycle or the habits of that insect in order to take it down. So I definitively agree. I'm all about using whatever I can get my hands on that is actually legitimate and making sure I keep my plants safe as I want to.
Right. Right. And I'm glad you mentioned mode of action, because a lot of times people will come to me with a thing, and most of the time, people consider me to be a bit of a skeptic. But in most cases, I just want to get some idea of the mode of action. If you can tell me why this thing is supposed to work, then I say, all right, hey, we can give this a try, because there's a reasonable pathway for me to see this thing working.
Mhm.
But if you just say it's magic, then I'm like,
And the
eh, you
people
know.
call you a skeptic. I could never see them doing that. I get called all types of names. I'm gonna show y'all something later after this, but I get topped all types of names, and I could never see them calling you a skeptic. That is horrendous, especially when you're asking something so simple as how does this work?
Yeah.
That's
Wait,
a
well,
legitimate
I thought you
question.
were being sarcastic, but like people think I am like the ultimate skeptic because I don't believe in pretty much anything.
I no, like I was being legitimately sincere. Like I couldn't because that's a simple question.
Mhm.
Like you shouldn't be seen as skeptical to say, explain to me. You don't have to do high level organic chemistry, inorganic chemistry, entomology, plant biology, soil micrology. You just can tell me at a face level value, how does this
Right.
work? That should just be
Right.
expected.
Right.
So
For instance, like
go ahead, go ahead.
diatomaceous earth, right?
Hmm.
We know diatomaceous earth works because it dries out the exoskeletons of most of your insects. So, boom, that's your methodology. That's how it works. When you get that normal, explanation, that's good enough for me. Yeah, I don't need you to know all the science of it, but this is how it works. It's that
Yeah.
methodology.
Now, I saw someone mention their companion planting, and that's my number one pest control method. That's my go-to right from the beginning, companion plant. Let the bugs never find it in the first place. That's my number one goal right there. But when we're talking about pesticides, we're past that
Yeah,
stage. They found it.
yeah. That ship has already sailed once we're at that stage. But yeah, I'm right there with you. Pest, companion plants. I'm strategic in the way I plant, all throughout my garden so that nature can do what it needs to do first. But you're absolutely right. At this stage, you're way past that point.
Yeah. And also when you have things that are invasive or new to the environment, they're not in balance like everything else. So,
Hmm.
they may not have a natural predator that's here that's ready to sort of clean things up for you. So it's a little bit different in certain situations. And I think sometimes people think all situations are the same or that their situation is everybody else's situation,
Hmm.
which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
But do you guys start off? What's your first go-to sort of? You got a pest problem on your plant. What's your first go-to usually?
Well, with me, first go to, like you said, is going to be companion planting. But once we get past that stage and we still have the pest present, I'm going to take a seat and look and see what pest problem I have first, because every pest problem could be different. If it's something where like I have like, or roly polies or pill bugs, all, infestation, or millipedes infestation or something, I'm probably going to go, or even your army ants and so forth, I'm probably going to go diatomaceous earth. But if I have something like leaf miners or I have, aphids or something like that, I'm going to probably step it up a notch and maybe go like an insecticidal soap or maybe even a neem or something like that. But with those horticultural oils, make sure we're using those early in the morning or late in the evening. You don't want to use those like right in the heat of the sun, as that could bake your foliage.
You're cooking. You're cooking.
You're cooking.
Yeah, we
Oh,
don't want to
Alex said
fire up our
explain
leaves.
companion planting. Okay, go ahead, Derek. Sorry.
No, we can explain that real quick. Companion planting is when you are planting plants together that are supposed to benefit each other. So, like I think lettuce and strawberries, lettuce digs deep into the ground's water and pulls up the liquids. Strawberries are more growing on the surface. They can kind of, help to, I think the lettuce eventually will help to shade off the strawberries. And it's supposed to be a methodology of growing plants that vibe together like a cohort of friends. Everybody does something like living single. You have plants. One of them's Regine, one of them's Kyle and Overton, and they're doing all of the great stuff, right? Now, when it comes to the legitimacy of that, there's some pros and cons of some science I've seen like to legitimize it, but there's nothing that I can find that's like 100% on it, except when you're talking about like plants that fix nitrogen in the soil versus plants that don't. So it's like putting things together that work together for a benefit of all of them. Like what you're showing us here, are those onions?
That is actually garlic planted with my strawberries. So
That's
sometimes I
garlic.
go with like marigolds with my strawberries because they drive off the nematodes, the root knot nematodes that might be in our soil. But this year I decided to go with garlic because I needed some more garlic in my pantry. So why not go ahead and use up that available space and plant it right alongside my strawberries? Garlics and chives, they do fantastically with strawberries.
Yes, fantastic. So you see that in action, right? He's doing that in action. And again, for those of you watching, please share this so the people can see and we can have visibility. So when it comes to me and my general mindset of like plants and pesticides and stuff, I'm pretty much like Gray. I'll go out, check. If I see I have something, I need to figure out what it is first. So I will either reach out to trusted sources I have, other entomologists, botanists, or people I have. I have contacts with the Cooperative Extension Office, so I'm a little different than the average person. Not to flex, but I am. And I got people on the inside. And after that, if I don't just use like iNaturalist, I will then say what chemicals can get rid of this, right? And then can that chemicals, especially outdoors, can it be used on my edible crops? So that's usually where I go down the gamut of, okay, I need this for the fire ants on my patio, and they're here and there. This is how I need to apply it. And now I just need to get it and then utilize any of the stuff I have at the top. So it's pretty much the same thing. How do you usually go about it, Andre?
I, I'm kind of quick to the neem oil. The neem oil, the diatomaceous earth, if it's hard bodied and it's kind of in the dirt, it's going to go diatomaceous earth. So it's the ants and things like that are going to get diatomaceous earth, or some hot water or something like that. But but neem oil is sort of my first go to is going to be neem oil. Even before if it's a bug, if I see bugs on it, I'm giving it neem oil. Giving it neem oil in the evening, and we'll see if that works. If that doesn't work, I feel like my next step is usually insecticidal soap. That's sort of the next. That's my hierarchy of pest control. But even still, like there's very few things in my garden that I ever feel really ever need to be sprayed at all. Like for me, it's pretty much going to be my grapes.
Yeah, grapes for sure.
Um, and I can't even think of. I think my grapes and lychee tree are the only thing that I've sprayed this whole year.
What about peach? Do you grow peach?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you spray your peach?
No, I don't spray my peaches.
Okay.
I've
Well,
never
I
had
actually
any
do.
pest problems with my peaches.
Okay. Okay. Good. I actually there's a product that I'm not going to show because they are not a sponsor, but there is a product that I use that helps with sunburns and insects and rodents in your tree, and it's actually a paint that you paint on the bark at the bottom of the tree.
Okay.
I do that for my peach trees just because peach are prone to those worms getting there, and I mean I have 3 or 4 peach trees, and we love our peaches, so I try to protect them as much as possible. I did have a problem before, so that's my methodology
Okay.
behind that.
Someone asked, how do you use neem oil? I just spray it. You can get it in a spray bottle. I spray it once again. I spray in the evening. You could probably spray it super early in the morning, but if you spray in the middle of the day and it's real sunny, you're going to cook your plants. So, in the evening, yep, spray bottle right there and
Spray
just
bottle.
spray it. I spray it liberally on the tops, the bottom of the leaves. I try to do it everything.
And now
You do it in Mexico
neem oil.
for ants. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say neem oil is derived from the neem tree. If now I actually have a follower who sent me some pictures. I can't remember where she's at. She might be in Spain, but she has a neem tree actually growing in her yard, and her garden is around. I was like, that is amazing. You have all the benefits of the neem right there. But yeah, it's derived from the neem tree.
Yeah, they sell neem trees here in Orlando. Like, I've thought about buying one many times. I just haven't got around to buying one. But someone had mentioned there that in Mexico they do on the trees. Yeah, in Mexico, all the trees, I think it's calcium hydroxide. Is that what it is? And they paint the trunks of the trees white.
Yes.
And I've heard two different things. I've heard that one, it helps with the pest control, helps insects climbing up and down because they have a lot of leaf cutter ants down there.
Hmm.
But also, apparently, it helps keep the tree cool when it's like crazy, crazy hot.
Yeah, because you're reflecting that white light is reflecting the UV light back. So yeah, it does help keep it cool when you're spraying it at the bark.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Now,
Just
there's
keep
been
in
a
mind
bunch
for
of
that person, I'm sorry, just keep in mind for that person that was spraying that neem oil, they said it was for their skin, and you should make sure that you're spraying like horticultural grade or just pure neem oil and not neem oil that may have other stuff in it for the human body.
that's a good point
Very
there.
good point. Yeah.
Now, one thing you mentioned, Derek, you mentioned that you had an in with your extension, your county extension.
I do.
Guys, all of you can have an in with your county extension. You just got to go there and get to know them. It's free. Like, just
It
go
is.
there and get to know the people and learn about it. And it's a great resource no matter where you live. You can learn a lot and you can get a lot out of it. And I don't use it enough.
Yeah. Can I just share? You know, I just got back. Literally just drove back in today from Houston Plant Con, and then I saw my ag extension. They were there at Houston Plant Con, Texas A&M. I was like, my people, because being a master gardener, we're actually sanctioned through the ag extension. So yes, I told them, I was like, yes, I always use the website. I refer people to the website because a lot of times when you have those pest problems specifically in your area, guess what? Your local ag extension has all the info and all the facts for you, 100% free.
Yes, definitely. Definitely a great resource. Someone asked in the comments about Suffalex. Suffalex?
Suff
Has
Oil
anyone used that?
X. I have not. I'm looking it up, and it looks decent, but I can't find what's in it other than mineral oil. So I've never
Okay,
used it. Suff,
interesting.
Suff, oil, and then X. Have you used it, Gray?
No, I haven't. That might be one we have to get back to you on to kind of find what the active ingredient is, just so we know more about it. But no, I haven't used that one yet, nor have I heard of
Okay,
it.
someone said they've had really bad fungal flies. I think they mean like fungus gnats.
Hmm.
We talked about that last week with the mosquito bits or the hydrogen peroxide. Both of those are good options for that.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely check that out from last week's episode. We went into detail on that, so make sure you check that one out.
yeah, that's available on, I believe it's on all of our pages, and it's also available on my YouTube page as well to watch it. It's a whole set. It's a playlist with all the episodes in it. Um, Now, someone mentioned bugs to fight bugs. Now, I have used this with mixed results, I would say at best. And it was ladybugs.
Hmm. Hmm.
However, I'll tell you what has worked tremendously for me is letting nature use the bugs to fight bugs. And I'll tell you how. Because a lot of times, if you have aphids or you have scale, you might have ants that are farming those aphids or scale. And what they're doing is protecting them from their natural predators. If you can eliminate the ants, a lot of times you'll see immediately the ladybugs, everything comes in and just cleans up that whole area. And that's what I did in Mexico. I used the Tanglefoot, which is like a barrier adhesive. So it is a pesticide, I guess, but it's a physical pest. It's a barrier, and it prevents the ants from climbing up and down the tree. And if they can't go up and down the tree, then eventually they can't protect those aphids or scale, and nature comes in and cleans those up relatively quickly.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm glad you mentioned it because I actually filmed a video a while back. I had that going on my tropical hibiscus, and it was exactly as you said. I had the aphids on the leaves, and you saw the ants just going up there and protecting. And soon as I removed the ants from the equation, ladybugs came right in and did their job.
Yep.
Yeah.
But when you buy ladybugs, I find like they just sort of take off. You put like a 2,500 ladybugs out there, and then the next day there's like two. Like,
Yeah.
Because they're
Well,
like,
because
we're
ladybugs.
free.
they
They're
have
like,
to
I
have
can just
a
buy
food
them.
source. That's why I always tell people, like, yeah, it's great if you go get these ladybugs, but if you don't have a food source from, they're going to fly away.
Yeah. And I think also I've heard that they're not harvested in the most sustainable manner or something. I've heard some negative things about that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's plausible.
And
It's
I know
plausible because I mean,
people,
mhm.
yeah, sorry. I know people also use like maybe praying mantis and what's the fly that they use? There's like a white, not a white fly. Um, it's like I can't remember the name of it.
Mm.
Ah,
No, it's okay.
okay.
But you know, while you're thinking about that, someone in the comments had a question. They said, "What about spinosad versus?" And I may be mispronouncing it because I do that from time to time.
I think it's Spinoza.
Yes, there you go. See, versus neem oil. Neem oil. They both have different methods of how they work. Neem oil, if memory serves me correctly, of course, Derek, Andre, correct me if I'm wrong, but neem oil affects the gastrointestinal system of the actual insect, and that's how it's effective. That's its methodology. And then the other one, who I'm not going to mess up again because y'all got me live messing up words, it actually affects the nervous system of the insect. But both are organic materials, and you can use either one. Is just, but yeah, and they both work on caterpillars, thrips, leaf miners, potato bugs, and so forth. So I mean, it just depends. Whatever is most accessible for you. Yes, sir.
Sorry, that's what it is. White soldier fly larvae. I think that might be what it was
Hmm.
that you can buy as well. I haven't tried those yet.
Mm.
But I've sort of been turned off to buying insects to sort of solve the problem. I much prefer to let nature do it and maybe manipulate nature in some way to let it happen naturally,
Hmm.
more so than that.
Yeah. Yeah, but I would say again, like I said at the top of the hour, make sure whatever you decide to use, make sure you monitor what's going on, you use it, and then you see if you get results. Just don't do the shotgun approach where you just throw everything in it because one, you could damage your plant, and then you don't know what was effective, and that can be very costly, very fast.
Yep.
Facts.
Definitely, definitely. Let me ask you a question. Now, diatomaceous earth.
Hmm.
Now, I use that probably the only time I use that really in practice is when I have ants inside of a raised bed that I'm growing food in. And I've heard people say, make sure that it's food grade. Um, and I wonder, like, what do you guys think the difference between diatomaceous earth and food grade diatomaceous earth is?
Well, I actually do have both. So I'm glad you're asking this question because I have a pool at my house, and I'm like, "Oh, Grayland's rich." No, because my kids and my
These
wife
honey
love that pool.
bags.
But
He
to me, it's
actually
just
is white because he has a house. Keep going.
to me, it is just throwing money in the ground because I'm spending so much on that pool every month. But one of the systems we have for the pool, we have a actual diatomaceous earth filter, and it actually filters out a lot of the algal blooms that because I have a bunch of trees, of course, and I get algae in my pool from time to time, and the diatomaceous filter actually filters that out, and it is a coarser material than what you get with the food grade. Now as far as chemically the breakdown of it, I cannot tell you, molecularly how it breaks down, but it is a little bit coarser than your food grade. And I think the reason why, and this is my just logic here kicking in, that we might be using the food grade is it because it's smaller granules and it can affect the pest easier. But that's just my my educated guess.
And
Interesting, because so go
when
ahead.
you do something food grade, it's safe to put on plants you eat. So there's differences of processing when you make something food grade versus just pool use. Like you're not going to eat that pool water. You're not going to eat that pool algae. Some people might, but you wouldn't. So, you know, that's the difference. That's the biggest difference. Go ahead, Andre.
Well, I'll tell you what, because when you buy diatomaceous earth, like I feel like the one that you just buy at the hardware store for your garden, it doesn't say food grade.
It doesn't, but some people also use diatomaceous earth as a food source or like add in for animals. So sometimes they'll label things three different ways because we as consumers don't know no better. And we'll buy something cheap that's more expensive in the gardening section than it is in the food animal section. So that's how they get us. It's capitalism.
Okay, because a lot of times, people are like, I'll be doing the diatomaceous earth, people go, oh, make sure it's food grade. I'm thinking, like, I feel like, I don't know. And I feel like the other thing that people have a hard time with is dose and assessing risk. Because I feel like I would rather have non-food grade diatomaceous earth go into a raised bed and then grow a vegetable in it 6 months later and eat that vegetable than a lot of things that people do on a regular basis without a second thought.
Yeah, yeah. That's I get it. I get you. I totally get you. Your thoughts, Derek?
I agree. There's a lot of crazy stuff I do that people will gasp at because people love to be mad at me. But when it comes to, I'm convinced. Again, I'll send y'all some pictures later. But um, when it comes to that, I'm definitely of the mindset of I've used some stuff that people will be freaking out at. I've used Seven outside before I really realized how detrimental it was to bees. Like Seven is a Beautiful insecticide, beautiful meaning it's broad spectrum. I spray it on my plants, and they are literally only touched by myself, but it takes the
That,
bees out.
but you know what? Explain that to us. Explain that to me as if I've never gardened before. What is broad spectrum?
So broad spectrum means it has everybody, it has problems with everybody. We all got that one cousin you can't take nowhere, right? We
He's
all got
broad
one.
spectrum.
He's broad spectrum. Sometimes she is broad spectrum, and because it's Pride Month, they too, they them are broad spectrum. And what happens is that insecticide or pesticide can take out a slew of things, from cockroaches to thrips to mites, spider mites, hornworms, ants, wasps, yellow jackets. If you can think of it, it's probably, and it's an insect pest, right? Or an arachnid, it's probably on that bottle, on that list, and you spray it on your plants. And with it being broad spectrum and also food safe, as long as you follow the cool down window, meaning after I spray it on my squash, for example, I wait a week or however long it says, then I can eat that food. Again, your plants look deliciously great. They're perfect, but it takes the bees out. So again, I used to use all that stuff. I since now, I don't really use a lot of stuff outdoors anymore. There's some things I do spray here and there, but I'm generally like, if y'all are going to be out here on this patio, I'm just going to kill you by hand. And then all of you will know and tell your generations to not touch this patio anymore because I'm crazy. But you shouldn't be that way. Uh, but again, I don't use a lot of stuff outdoors anymore, but I get it. I would rather take a calculated risk than take a miscalculated step and fall and break my face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sorry. And also when you're using those things that are broad spectrum, do them at just like sundown, do them super early in the morning, and the bees are not going to be out.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Good.
so sundown I'd probably recommend because that gives it a little bit of time. And and a lot of your plants are not plants bees are really on anyways. You know,
Right.
so
Right. Now, because like with that being said, like I was using diatomaceous earth in the video, and I was explaining, why I was using it on the millipedes, and I'm spraying, I'm spreading the powder around on the soil because that's where my infestation is. And I got a bunch of comments like, "Oh no, it's gonna take out the bees. Don't use it. Don't use it." I was like, "I'm not blowing it around in the air." And like you said, it was. I want to say it was very early in the morning that I was using it. So I was making sure that there were no pollinators out at that time. So I was, again, like you, Derek, I was taking that calculated risk and explaining the process, but like, no, we throw the baby out with the bathwater.
yeah,
And
like
you said
what's
you
the
put on the soil,
volume?
right?
So what's the volume of bees that are going to be walking on that particular patch of ground?
Exactly.
Like
50,000. 50,000 bees decided to walk on this
bees.
ground and roll around. They were rolling in their little bee bodies, all in that diatomaceous earth. And now you're a part of Bee Collapse because me on Instagram, I'm pissed off because I don't understand pesticides and you're using them and they're bad.
I kept bees. I had bees for like 5 years. I was a beekeeper. All right. And,
Ooh,
and I'll tell you one of the things, how you check for mites in your beehive?
how you do that?
You kill like 100 bees.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You,
I'm
you,
good.
you, you, you,
Really?
you,
Tell
you
me.
use a container
Yes,
and you collect bees in this container
yes,
and then you put something in there that
yes.
basically kills them, and then you can shake it around, and at the bottom of it, all the little dead mites are on there. You count the mites, and that tells you, because you can do the math and figure out how many mites, whether you have a mite problem in your hive or not. Because
Huh.
essentially, from the guy that taught me, a
Yeah, yeah.
100 bees is nothing. They don't
Mm.
notice 100 bees gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just think
So
When
Martha went to another next door. Uh-huh.
now the other thing to remember too is honeybees are not necessarily the bees that we need to protect.
no, we need our native.
Mm,
Yeah.
the people gonna kidnap y'all. Y'all are talking way too good. They gonna come up missing because y'all are coming against all the people who are talking about they colonized honeybees
We're gonna make a lot
versus
of
our,
people mad.
y'all are making the people
How many mites per
furious.
100 bees is an issue?
Yes.
That is a great question. I'm trying to remember. I gave up the bees like 3 years ago. Um, Let me
Yeah.
check.
Will you come
Check it up right quick.
back to, please check on those bees? When they talk about our native bees, friends, our native bees are being ran amok like all the other bees. The difference is we're not directly getting anything from them, their honey from them or benefit from them. We get upset when carpenter bees come through. What? How many?
2 to 3 mites per 100 is a problem. I remember seeing like see like 15 mites in 100 bees. So 2 to 3
That
mites
makes sense.
apparently are a problem.
Two
So
to three mites per hundred.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, per hundred, because in a colony, based off a colony, you're probably talking about a good maybe what, million bees, 500,000 bees, if not more.
I I think it might be maybe around 100,000, but let me check.
Okay,
So if you do
because I mean,
2 to 3, and you're guessing that's what 3%, and you just being good rounding up to
20 to
5%.
80,000, 20 to 80,000
yeah,
bees.
that's
Yeah,
still
so
a
five
large
percent is
number.
a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
So that's a decent amount of mites. But anyways, my point is that I don't think we
Yes.
should get super, super worked up about, it sounds mean to say, about the life of one bee. Ultimately, bees get killed all the time. Every time they leave the hive, there's a chance they're not coming back. And they make and make and make and make more bees. I heard someone once say, if we're trying to save the bees by saving honeybees, it's like trying to save the birds by saving chickens. Um, you know, Bees are going nowhere. Honeybees are going nowhere. We've domesticated them. They're pets. They're not going anywhere. It's the native bees are the ones that are in trouble.
Yeah, there's the
Mm.
one. Yeah, I'm glad you said. But it's funny. Ever since you mentioned the bees, I just see you, and I think this is the next video you need to film. You as Jason Statham, like I must protect the hive.
That was a good movie, The Beekeeper. That was a pretty good
it,
movie right
Yes.
it
there.
was.
That was a good
I love
movie.
it.
So let me ask you guys a question. So,
Mhm.
what do you think is people's biggest problem with pesticides in general? Like, why do you believe we as a society are so like hung up on this at this moment in time? Because we didn't used to be this way. Like 50 years ago, the pesticides were far worse than they are now, and nobody gave a damn.
Documentaries. Documentaries. I want you to think about this. And I might be outside of the field on this one, so please debate me on it. But I think it's because of documentaries. Think
Okay.
about
Same.
this. When you put something to slow
Hmm.
music and you state a random fact, no one fact checks you on it. I mean, think about it. You get a nice, long, slow paced voice and be like, every time you blink your eyes, 100 million bees have died. And people are like, oh my God, and they believe it. They believe that no one checks it. So when it comes to the pesticides, we have documentaries that's giving out this misinformation, or we have Instagrammers or influencers and so forth that's giving out this misinformation, and no one is doing the due diligence to go and fact check it and get the actual information. So we just say it's all bad. It's all bad. Like,
Right.
no, you can't use any of it. But I mean, it was all bad. I mean, granted, I know we live in a capitalist society where we want to make money and everything, but if it was all bad, I mean, do you really think that our entire food industry would be using some of this stuff? Because trust me, everything that you buy at your grocery store, guess what? Those products have been used.
See, but now you're going down they're trying to kill us by poisoning our food conspiracy. Because in addition to those people who are talking about how bad everything is with slow-paced voice or AI voices and deep, sad music, or they just say a bunch of trendy words, there are people who are saying that they're trying to take us out with food. So I think it's a lack of knowledge is really what it boils down to agree with what you're saying, because people don't know how to filter out BS because they think they got it. They think
Right.
I understand chemicals are bad and this has chemicals, therefore it's terrible and it's going to give us cancer and all of these other trigger words. Because if I could just be on the alkaline diet with my sea moss and my raw milk for the other side of the world, then I can just do it. And the people are and I see so much that goes deeper than pesticides with people eating raw fermented meat and drinking raw milk and doing, I see all types of crazy stuff. It's literally just people have a disdain and a disrespect for science and a fear of it.
Yep.
And that is what leads to people being like, pesticides bad. Well, what you be seeing,
Well,
Andre?
I'll tell you what. I think social media is definitely to blame because everyone has a voice now. There used to be a time where you had to have some credentials to get in front of 1,000 people. But
It
now
is.
anybody can get in front of 1,000 people at any moment in time. And I think when you don't know how anything works, it's very easy to believe in conspiracies
Yeah.
because you have no frame of reference. You have no idea, what a study is. You have no idea what a meta analysis is. You have no idea what any of these things are. So it's very easy to keep to believe things like this. And this, I call this the golden age of misinformation.
Mm.
Okay. Now I have a question for both of you.
Hmm.
This is kind of on a tangent, but do you have a favorite conspiracy? I have a favorite. I love it, but I want to know: do you guys have a favorite conspiracy?
Or, like, not related to plants at all. I definitely got one. Birds are not real. They were killed off by the CIA back in the 70s. And every bird you see is a surveillance
It's a
machine,
robot.
is a robot, because they've had these drones, these automated recording drones since the 70s, where the CIA and the FBI, or maybe the NSA, killed off all the birds. And that's one that I've seen, which is the new one after the flat Earth theory. I love, because they had the flat Earth convention like 30 or 40 minutes away from here a couple of years ago. I wanted to go there so bad, but the people told me not to. Um, but that's my favorite. The birds is not real. So when you see a bird, it's not
Ain't
real.
real.
What's your favorite, Andre?
Oh, I gotta hear
No, no, no,
Grace because
no. No. You first. You first. You
Uh-huh.
first.
I honestly probably don't have one. I am so anti conspiracy theory that like I don't believe anything without receipts.
So which
I'll tell
one
you though,
has
I do
gotten your
have
goose the
one.
most?
I do have
Uh-huh.
one. I have a bone to pick with you, Derek, but one thing.
Oh,
Uh oh. Uh
please
oh.
tell me. I'm ready for
All
this.
right. But it's not a conspiracy theory. So, but it's the Epsom salt. You made a video sort of bashing my Epsom salt.
I, I bashed it. That one was more for triggering people to comment. I used Epsom salts before, but I always tell people check what your plants actually need. There was supposed to be a video to follow up to that, but I can't use this side of my phone, so there's no point of me trying to edit.
Okay.
Good.
Well, the Epsom salt, like I'll tell you, I have some friends that are big into mango trees. Like I mean, they are the mango gurus, right? I've got 20 varieties of mangoes. These guys have like hundreds of varieties of mangoes.
Oh,
And
wow.
one of my buddies, the guy's got 200 varieties of mangoes in his backyard in pots. He Epsom salts his mangoes every month.
Wow. Because they need that much magnesium, right?
I don't know. I believe magnesium helps the tree absorb other nutrients.
There is that ability. It's called fertilizer antagonism.
Okay. So um, he and my other buddy, who's a big time mango guy, he does it several times a year. I only do it twice a year, and I feel like I don't even do it enough. But I saw your video talking about the myths of gardening, and you had the Epsom salt as one of the myths.
So
Care
here's why I do
to
that, because
explain
a lot of people,
yourself?
I do, because I'm ready for this, because you had this. So right here, y'all probably can't see this on this bag. This is Biotone. They're not a sponsor, but I love these people. And right here on this bag, if you look at most of your fertilizers, other than the NPK, you'll see a breakdown. This has 1%, 5% of its total value as magnesium. You're already getting it in most of the fertilizers you use. Now, if you have a plant where you're like, okay, it needs to push this, so I need magnesium. The weed growers are great with this. I need to push this to be able to do this and get these buds and get this veg looking, blah, 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 blah. Phenomenal. But unlike you, most people are probably just throwing this up here because they saw a video of somebody doing it and he was doing like this and be like, hey guys, I can do this magnesium stuff, y'all. And he sprinkled it all over and it went over. Y'all know y'all's cousin Hamilton, and it went all over everywhere. And then he did, and then people are spreading by it, and then their plants go on to grow with Jesus. So that's why I talk about
Okay, because
Yeah.
I don't really give my mango trees anything but chop and drop,
it. Hmm.
um, mulch, occasionally a little bit of wood ash, and Epsom salt. So I don't give them any other fertilizers per se.
And
Like,
you're doing this
you know,
to a tree. You're not doing this to a tomato,
no,
one lone tomato
no,
plant.
no, no, no. I don't do it in my veggie garden. I do these on
Mm-hmm.
my mangoes and my avocados and my lychee. Those are the ones that get the Epsom salt, and
See,
they get it around the drip line.
I
In
thought
the
you had a real bone to pick with me. See, I was ready for this. I was like, look at us. having our first argument. This is so adorable, and it wasn't even that.
Yeah, no, that's
I
perfect.
was,
Yeah,
I was watching
because
that video. I was like,
everybody's
this was.
situation is going to be different.
He was sitting there mad with me. He was about to call me all sorts of names. He was like, delete, delete.
Block,
I'll talk to him on
block.
Monday. Let me unfollow him real quick. Done.
Right.
He is a phony.
Hold
But
on.
no,
Don't let Greg get
please.
away.
Okay.
What's your
Oh, hold
conspiracy
on. The next
theory?
conspiracy theory. Can you address what to fertilize peach apricot trees with? We're here to. Okay, we'll get to that, but we need to hear Gray's favorite
What's
conspiracy theory.
your favorite?
This is a very old one, and this comes
Mm,
from being an educator, being a
okay.
teacher, about the moon landing being fake.
Now I love
Because
that one.
as
It was
old as this conspiracy is, there are still people that believes that we have never been to space, we've
yes.
never been on the moon. It was filmed in a studio.
Who
Look
was
at
the
the
director?
way the
The
huh?
director. Who they say the director was again?
I can't
Let me look that
remember. Yeah, but
back
they
up.
said what was it, Stanley Kubrick or something like that?
Yes.
The guy, yes,
Yes.
yes, like the guy who did what's the movie? Red Rum. I can't think of it
Yes.
now. Stanley Kubrick
Him or
directed this.
Hitchcock.
And it's funny because years ago, we were watching because I was teaching thermodynamics. I'm doing automotive technology, and I had a student, a ninth grader, said, "Oh, Mr. Brown, this rocket launcher we're watching live, mind you." He was like, "That's not real. That's not really happening." I was like, "Well, we're literally watching it live. Like this is being simulcast throughout the world." They're like, "Oh no, it's not real. That's just a green screen." I was like, "Are you serious?" So that conspiracy, as old as it is still going on because he stood his ground, and I will never shoot a student down like, "Nah, sit down. You don't know what you're talking about." I let him debate it, and I was like, "I'm sorry, but you're misinformed. I need you to learn a little bit more about physics and how physics works."
Okay, so wait, so
Who?
okay, so you said that's your favorite, you're most entertained by, but not one you believe
Oh
in.
no, I don't believe in conspiracy theories. No, it's
Oh,
just
okay,
my
okay,
favorite.
okay. Okay, then in that case, I do have a favorite. My
Okay.
favorite is flat earthers. I like flat
There
earthers. I
you
think they
go.
are amusing.
Oh, they are
Um,
so amusing. Have you seen the documentary on the Netflix about them flat earthers? And they were doing all this testing to prove that the Earth was flat, and they kept having to change their test because it kept proving the Earth wasn't flat. It's a beautiful thing. Again, they filmed part of it here in North Carolina, like 30, 40 minutes away from me. It was insane.
yeah. Um, yeah, that's probably my favorite one. Now, the question about the peaches.
Yeah.
What do you guys fertilize your peaches with?
I don't have features.
With my peaches, actually, I just go in with a mixture I kind of make up myself. I go in with just a little bit of very small amounts of nitrogen. I don't do a high levels of my nitrogen because too much nitrogen is definitely going to attract those pests to your foliage, but really more potassium and very small on the phosphorus because phosphorus is one of those macronutrients that tends to stack in your soil, and you can actually give way too much phosphorus very fast because it's less mobile in the soil.
Okay.
So what'll end up happening is you can actually end up getting a zinc deficiency by having too much
But
phosphorus.
don't you want to have like a little extra phosphorus to get encourage fruiting? Isn't phosphorus the thing that's going to make it fruit?
It is. But when I'm doing my fertilizing early in the spring and maybe like right before the fall, before they're about to go dormant. So I will give them that little quick dose, but not a whole bunch
Okay.
because I don't like to over phosphorus because again, how it moves in the soil. Because I think
Oh,
a lot of times we get confused with our NPKs. Our nitrogen, after a heavy rain, your nitrogen can completely wash away. After watering, you can wash away a lot of your nitrogen. It's very mobile in the soil, but your phosphorus and your potassium, not as much. But phosphorus really just kind of sits there. But you know what? Derek's the botanist. Would you agree, or am I completely off base with the NPK?
he is 100% correct, Mundo. I hated soil chemistry. I hate regular chemistry, but everything you're saying is the stuff I remember. Um, and this is great for you to say. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Okay. Now there's a lot of people on here that are new to gardening or having so NPK. A lot of people hear that, and it's we just say it like casually, like nothing. But for a lot of people, NPK is like Chinese, right? So we're talking about nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and so when you see three numbers on your fertilizer, it kind of tells you how, the ratio of each of those things or how much of each of those things is in there. So what's the NPK on that?
This is reading a 1.2500.
Okay.
This is worm casting, so that's why it's reading that level.
So it's
But
straight
boom.
nitrogen, basically, is the only thing you're really getting out of that.
Yeah.
Plus trace minerals as well, right?
Right. Because that's one a lot of people gloss over. They think about that nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus, but they forget about the micronutrients. Those are just as important. Your borons, your magnesiums, your zinc, and so forth. They forget about those. But yeah, I'm glad you say that because sometimes we just get so used to our vernacular that we forget to mention it for the beginner
Yeah,
gardeners. But
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
always look at
because
those three numbers.
I'm always going to be for the uneducated because I'm the only one here who's not a formal gardener here. So I have to speak for the regular people, for the common people, my
meanwhile,
people.
you got all those fruit trees and stuff. You're not regular and common.
Not
You
regular.
got all those fruit trees and exotic fruits. You are far from
Hey, I got to speak for the little man. I'm speaking for the little man.
it.
You
I'm
know
the
what?
little man representative here.
There was a question I want to address real quick. They said, "Is there a specific brand that I look for?" No, you have to know what your plant needs. And I know it can be a tricky, especially when you're a new gardener. But like, hey, I'm growing tomatoes. What do they need? Hey, reach out to any one of us in our DMs. We will answer you. But you look up your specific plant. Hey, if I'm growing tomatoes, I need X. If I'm growing peppers, I need X. So you don't want to just go with a coverall with your macronutrients. You're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna just get this and spread it on everything. Some of those plants might not need it at all. For instance, like peas, right? Peas, we know peas and beans, they're already nitrogen fixers in the soil. So you don't want to give them any extra nitrogen. So you have to look up your plants. So I just wanted to
Right,
say
right.
that.
Now, at the same time, we're not trying to make this too much homework,
Hmm.
okay?
Hmm.
Like, so I would say, there are some all-purpose fertilizers that you can kind of just spread around, right? Now, if you're like gardening for a living, or you're gardening, or your family doesn't eat, then yeah, let's get all technical. But for the casual gardener, what's a good sort of ratio that they can just throw in their garden?
I would even not say a ratio, but for those of you who are just like hobbyists, you're just doing this for fun, you just want to be in it, that little blue box that has the miracle in it, you can get that, okay? And that can work for you. I love Arbor. I am an Arbor ambassador, ARBER. It's a liquid fertilizer. They have a granular you can use outside, and I use it indoors, and Espoma, which I've showed here. I love them as well. And it's again something where you can get a slow release or a liquid. I generally tell people get a slow release to start off and then graduate to a liquid once you're used to growing plants, seeing what they look like, and then get more comfortable with balancing that and measuring out the liquid more specifically.
Hmm.
Let me ask you a
Very
question
good.
because I have a friend of mine. He is like a phenomenal gardener. He's like really amazing. And he told me that in the winter when it's cold, and here in Florida, like Florida cold,
Mhm.
um, he uses liquid fertilizers in the winter, and the summer he uses like
Solid.
granules and such.
Hmm.
Because he says in the winter the microbiology is so slow that it doesn't break down things quickly. And the liquid he prefers in the winter because it can just immediately have an effect a lot
True.
faster than something that has to be broken down. That
Yeah,
makes
That's true.
sense?
100%. Yeah, you get the great. Yeah, thumbs up here. Yeah, the logic makes complete sense because your plants are slower to grow. The microorganisms are not moving as much. They're not as present. So yeah, that logic makes 100% sense.
Oh,
Yeah.
good to know. Good to know.
Hmm. Hmm.
We have a few questions here. Now's a great time to ask your question if you have, guys. Um, Said, I'm growing German pink tomatoes along with a bunch of other tomatoes, but the plant is the only one dropping flowers. Could it be too much nitrogen?
I'm trying to remember the chemical, the phytochemical that does off of memory that does flowering, but I can't
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah, if you're dropping, I don't think it's going to be too much nitrogen. The nitrogen is going to be more of a fixation on your leaves. Do you see like any leaf damage, any leaf curl or anything like that? Any like chlorosis in your leaves? That's what I would look for too much nitrogen. And you can get yellowing in your leaves with too much nitrogen as well. Um, Honestly, for the leaf drop. It might be
Well,
a phosphorus
I think it's
deficiency.
flower drop. It's flower drop. I think you
Yeah,
have.
I'm sorry. I said leaf, but I meant flower. Yeah, flower drop. You might have a potassium, not potassium, a phosphorus deficiency.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Because
what I'm.
yeah, I always thought like if you have too much nitrogen, that it's just not going to flower. Like you have less flowers because it's just growing leaves.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's true. That's true too. But the fact is that they're dropping them, they're growing them, and they're dropping them. I'm thinking my logic is saying it has to be phosphorus based.
all right.
Yeah.
What's the best mango variety to try to grow in 9B coastal California? 9B, you are right on the borderline of being able to grow a mango in the ground. If you're going to try to grow it and you can sort of grow it in a pot, I would say a Pickering mango would be your go-to. It's going to stay small, produce really good mangoes, and it's a dwarf. And you can put it in a pot and you can have it outside for most of the year. You can cover it up. You can slide it into the garage if it gets down into like the 40s or the 30s. But that's the one that I would definitely pick if I had to have something that I had to protect. I often have success sprouting seeds, but when they are 2 to 3 inches, I find I often lose half of, oh no, I lost it. Half of them. Is it normal? Flowers and tomatoes specifically. So what's most people's problem? I hear a lot of people have that problem. Like they get seedlings, they get to a certain point, and then they just can't sort of finish the deal.
It depends on what type of light you're growing them under is usually what I would start with. So I have this problem in here. I used to, before I started getting all these fancy grow lights, I could start plants in here like nobody's business. But now specifically in this living room and all rooms where I grow plants, there's so much beautiful light that my plants end up over elongating. So once they get to 2 or 3 inches, they just start thinning out at the stem and then they just fall over. So it's either that generally or as Josie put in, dampening off, whereas you're overwatering, your plants don't have enough time to dry off. You might want to get like a heating mat or something or dry out. And then they just kind of fall over too.
Okay. Someone asked a question about soil acidity, and I think Gray, you commented that slightly acidic for the tomatoes,
Yeah.
6.5. Yeah, pH is so important. I feel like so many failures of gardening are pH related, and it's the thing that 99% of gardeners don't check. I myself, I just got a pH meter recently, and now I've been checking it, and I was surprised because things I thought I'd been acidifying, I put the thing is like 7.3. I'm like, what? This thing should be like 3 by now. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
because okay, now let me ask you this, because I actually had this conversation with a friend of mine, and he was using a product that you can get your big box stores, and I don't want to slander the product, but he was using this product, and it's supposed to acidify your soil, but then when he went back and checked it a couple of months later, it had basically had went alkaline again. And so what I told him, I was like, what you really want to do is you want to use something that's going to be like an azalea blend, something that's going to have like that pine bark in it that can give you that long duration of acidification, or something sulfur based. But when you're using this product, it's kind of like a quick shot. Have you guys ever used if you understand what product I'm talking about, have you used anything like that before?
I have. I think I know what you're talking about. I'm just
Yeah.
guessing, but I
We need to
have.
talk
If it's what I
offline so
think
I
it
can know
is.
the we need to talk offline so I can know the name of this. I have
All right.
not. In industrial world, I've used citric acid and phosphoric acid to bring stuff down, but I have not had to do that at home.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find it's mostly like a berry thing. Usually for me, it's so good. Coffee grounds,
Eh.
you got to use a lot of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, even when you use a lot of it, most of it's going to decompose and break down. So it's not going to be a long duration. You're better with that pine bark because that's going to be something that's going to take longer to break down. But I know Derek has a specific feeling about coffee grounds. Look at his face.
So Andre and them are going to come and beat on my door, and I'm going to have to hide in the closet or something because coffee grounds will not lower your pH. And I know we say it. I used to swear by it. I used to swear by coffee grounds for a lot of things, but it just won't, beloved. So pine bark, or again, a product that is made to drop your pH more sufficiently. Again, I know we want to go organic and natural, but sometimes we just need to do something that actually works.
What about pine needles?
Pine needles, I've heard have done the same, but I haven't used a lot of pine needles, and most people who would swear by that will then be complaining about the mosquitoes that they can tend to hold, especially here in Carolina.
Okay, because I use
Now, growing,
pine needles as a mulch in some of my things like my watermelon bed and such.
hmm
yeah,
Well,
and
see,
that's
you're
what
using
I was going to say.
Sonya's, y'all are using Sonya's bug spray, so y'all wouldn't even notice the
Yeah,
mosquitoes because y'all are covering yourselves up.
That's true, and it reminds me we want to thank our sponsors once again. Sonia's Bug Spray, which is the best bug spray I have ever used, and I've used this for years now, long before we had a podcast. So I'm very thankful for Sonia for helping to sponsor and make this possible. Um, we have Andre the Farm. Oh, let's go with Retain. We have Retain. That's one of our sponsors. And, I'll tell you what, I do a lot of grafting. And one of the things I fail to do often is clean my tools enough. And I'll tell you, it changes your success rate on your grafts, whether you're using clean tools or not using clean tools. And also, you're not going to have to replace those shears when they rust all out because, you've got the Retain. So definitely something I look forward to getting my sample of that real soon. And Derek, I'm going to get you some Andre the Farmer sweet and spicy pepper sauce. Shoot me your address
I will.
after we're done here, and I will have this shipped out to you immediately, sir.
I appreciate it. I'm
Um,
gonna eat it on everything. And for the people who are asking questions, who are getting
and
those last
this
minute
month,
questions in, go
this
ahead.
month till Father's Day, we have a sale.
Ooh,
You buy two of any kind, and you get a free not so hot version. So if you buy two hots, you get a free not so hot. If you buy two not so hots, you get another free not so hot. So check it out, but only on the website is the deal. But if you want to just get it for just forget it, you can get it on Amazon as well. All right. And
yeah.
any
And for
parting
those of you who are
words, guys? We are at the end of our time.
those of you putting your questions in, DM us and tune in next week. We may talk about the things y'all are talking about. People asking about fish emulsions, people asking about how we measure pH. Maybe that'll be the next episode. Who's to say? But if you DM us, you can come with it. And thank you, Andre and Grace. Good to see y'all.
thank you.
All right.
Yes,
Thank you.
it's great to
Great.
see you guys. It's been fantastic, and like I like to always say, I'll talk to you guys again real soon.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. The replay will be here on all of our Instagram pages. It will also be on my YouTube channel as well. That's Andre the Farmer. So check it out, guys. And we'll see you next week, Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The Dirt on Gardening. See you guys.